I hear his voice. My world stops completely. We're in the communication trench. 20 of us preparing for the night raid, and Sergeant Mueller is going over the plan one more time. 60 meters to the British trench. Wire gap is marked. We go through fast and quiet, take prisoners if possible, kill if necessary. Back here in 15 minutes. Standard raid. We've done variations of this a dozen times since October. Sometimes successful, sometimes not. Always dangerous. But this time is different, because across no man's land, from the British position we're about to attack, I hear someone speak in German. And it's Klaus, my brother, my older brother who I haven't seen in 5 years. The voice carries across the evening quiet. He's talking to someone in their trench, probably teaching another soldier some German phrases. He always liked teaching. His accent is the same, that slight Bavarian inflection we both grew up with in Munich. Unmistakable to me even after all these years, even across 60 meters of cratered ground. "Nine, it's pronounced like this, watch my mouth," he's saying. Patient, like always, and I can picture him exactly. His face, his gestures, the way he explains things carefully to make sure people understand. My heart is hammering now. I can barely breathe, barely think. Klaus is here. Klaus is in that British trench. Klaus is the enemy I'm about to attack in 18 minutes. The other men don't notice my reaction. They're focused on Mueller, checking their rifles, adjusting their equipment, preparing mentally for what's coming. I should be doing the same, but I'm frozen, listening desperately for Klaus's voice again, hoping I'm wrong, hoping it's someone else who just sounds similar. Hoping this is my imagination playing tricks after months of stress and combat. But then he speaks again, laughing at something. That distinctive laugh I'd know anywhere, and there's no doubt anymore. No possibility of mistake. That's Klaus, my brother who left Germany in 1909 to work in Manchester, who married an English woman named Margaret, who sent us letters for 2 years before they stopped coming, who became British, who apparently joined the British Army, who's now sitting in a trench 60 meters away while I prepare to attack him. Mueller finishes the briefing and dismisses us to final preparations. We have 15 minutes before we go over the top. I stumble to the fire step, sit down heavily, trying to process what I've just heard, trying to decide what to do. Do I tell Mueller? Do I refuse to go? Do I go through with it and hope I don't encounter Klaus specifically? Do I somehow try to warn him without betraying my unit? Every option is impossible. Every choice is betrayal of someone, something, some duty or bond I'm supposed to honor. "Weber, you all right?" Private Fisher next to me, young kid, 18, concerned because I probably look like I'm having a breakdown. "Fine, just nerves. We'll be fine, in and out quickly. They won't even know we're there until it's too late." That's exactly what I'm afraid of, that we'll catch them unprepared. Klaus will be one of the soldiers we encounter, that I'll have to choose in that moment between shooting my brother or betraying my comrades. 15 minutes to decide. 15 minutes to figure out what duty means when it conflicts with blood. 15 minutes to choose between being a good soldier or a good brother, knowing I can't be both.
Klaus left Germany 5 years ago, 1909, when I was 21 and he was 28. He was a machinist, skilled worker, good with his hands and technical thinking, the kind of man factories wanted. The Industrial Revolution was creating opportunities across Europe, especially in England, where manufacturing was booming, where German technical skills were valued, where a man could make more money than in Munich. Father didn't want him to go, but Klaus was determined, wanted adventure, wanted to see the world beyond Bavaria, wanted opportunities Germany couldn't provide. I remember the day he left, train station in Munich, whole family there to see him off, mother crying, father stern and disapproving, but shaking Klaus's hand anyway. Me trying to be supportive, even though I didn't want him to leave. "I'll write every week," Klaus promised. "You'll visit, I'll come home for Christmas. This isn't goodbye forever, just goodbye for now. He was excited, optimistic, full of plans and dreams about his new life in England. The letters came regularly at first, every Sunday like clockwork. He wrote about Manchester, about the factory where he worked, about learning English, about the strange British customs and food. Then he wrote about Margaret, English girl he met at a church social, clerk in an office, educated, pretty, kind. He was clearly falling in love. His letters became longer, more frequent, full of Margaret this and Margaret that. We were happy for him. Even father softened a bit, said maybe England wasn't so bad if Klaus was doing well. Then came the letter saying he was getting married, 1911, asking if we could come to England for the wedding. Father refused. Too expensive, too far, too much disruption. Mother wanted to go, but father wouldn't allow it. So Klaus got married without family present, just Margaret's people and some German friends from the factory. The letters continued, but less frequently now, monthly instead of weekly. Klaus had his own life, his own family. He was becoming more English than German. In 1912, he wrote that he'd applied for British citizenship. Naturalization process. Would take a couple years, but he wanted to make England his permanent home. Father was furious, called it betrayal, said he had abandoned his fatherland, his heritage, his family. They argued through letters, harsh words on both sides, and after that the correspondence mostly stopped. I wrote to Klaus occasionally, kept him updated on family news, but he rarely responded. Maybe the break with father hurt too much. Maybe he was trying to leave his German identity behind completely. The last letter I got was January 1914. Brief note saying he and Margaret were expecting a child, due in summer. He was excited about becoming a father. I wrote back congratulations, asked about names, told him family news. He never replied. And then in August, the war started. Germany declared war on France. Britain declared war on Germany. And suddenly my brother wasn't just in England anymore. He was in enemy territory. And I was in the Kaiser's army, preparing to fight the British. I wondered sometimes, over the past months, if Klaus was fighting too, if he'd joined the British Army. But England was big. The British Army was huge. The chances of ever encountering him seemed impossibly small. Until tonight. Until I heard his voice across no man's land. Until those impossible odds suddenly became reality.
Sergeant Mueller gathers us again. 10 minutes to go. Remember, silence until contact. Hand signals only. Stay together. Watch for sentries. The goal is prisoners, not a firefight. I'm checking my rifle mechanically. My hands know what to do, even though my mind is elsewhere, completely focused on Klaus, on what I'm going to do when we cross that distance, when we reach that British trench where my brother is waiting, unknowingly. The plan is simple. We've rehearsed it multiple times. Exit our trench at the marked point where the wire is already cut, cross no man's land low and fast, enter the British trench through their wire gap, grab whoever we can, get back before they organize resistance. Quick raid, in and out, 15 minutes total. The British raid us the same way sometimes. It's become almost routine, this deadly game of grab and run in the darkness. Private Schmidt is fidgeting nervously. It's his first raid, only been with us 2 weeks, replacement for Koch, who took a sniper bullet. Stay close to me, I tell him, my voice steady, despite everything churning inside. Follow exactly what I do, you'll be fine. He nods gratefully, young face showing trust, and I realize I'm giving him advice while planning to possibly sabotage this entire operation to protect my brother. The hypocrisy is stunning, but what choice do I have? Corporal Bauer is checking his watch, synchronized with Mueller's. The timing is crucial because our artillery will fire a brief barrage to distract British attention right as we cross no man's land. 5 minutes, Bauer announces quietly, and everyone tenses. Final mental preparation. The moment when you acknowledge you might die in the next half hour. When you make peace with that possibility. When you decide whether the cause is worth it. Is it worth it, though? Fighting my brother? What are we even fighting for at this point? The war started over Serbian assassinations and alliance complications I barely understand. And now I'm sitting in Belgian mud preparing to kill or capture British soldiers, including potentially my own blood relative. The Kaiser says we're defending German honor and security. The newspapers say we're fighting barbarous enemies who want to destroy German civilization. But all I see across no man's land are men like us, cold, hungry, scared, wishing they were home. And one of those men is Klaus, speaking German to teach his British comrades, probably telling them about Bavaria, about Munich, about the family he left behind, maybe even mentioning his younger brother Friedrich, who's probably safe somewhere in Germany, not knowing that Friedrich is 60 meters away, preparing to attack him. I could warn him, I realized suddenly. I could shout across, tell them we're coming, give them time to prepare, save Klaus, even if it costs German lives, including possibly mine. But that would be treason, pure treason. I'd be shot by my own side if they found out. And what about Schmidt and the others counting on surprise for their survival? Betraying the raid means potentially killing German soldiers to save one British soldier who happens to be related to me. Or I could go through with it, participate in the raid, hope desperately that I don't personally encounter Klaus in the chaos, that he survives, that someone else captures him if anyone does, that I can get through this without having to directly choose between him and my duty. Cowardly, perhaps, leaving it to chance, but maybe the only way I can live with either outcome. 2 minutes. Muller's voice cuts through my spiral of thoughts, and suddenly there's no more time to decide, no more time to plan, only time to move and react and survive. We line up at the marked exit point, 20 men crouched low, weapons ready, faces blackened with mud for camouflage, looking like ghosts in the dim evening light. The temperature is dropping fast, November in Belgium. My breath makes small clouds in the air. Everything is wet and cold and miserable like it's been since October. Muller signals, points forward, starts climbing out of the trench, and we follow, one by one over the parapet, dropping immediately to crawl through the mud, because standing means silhouette, silhouette means target, target means death. No man's land stretches ahead, 60 meters, but it might as well be 600. Cratered ground, broken equipment, barbed wire everywhere except for the marked gaps our scouts found yesterday. We start moving, and immediately I'm focused on survival mechanics, watching for wire, watching for shell holes that could break an ankle, watching for movement from the British line. Everything automatic, training and experience taken over from conscious thought. Schmidt is behind me. I can hear him breathing heavily, scared but controlled, doing exactly what I told him, staying close, following my movements. The artillery begins exactly on schedule, our guns firing over our heads toward the British rear positions, not trying to kill anyone, just making noise, creating distraction, drawing attention away from the front line where we're approaching. The British will be watching their rear, worried about a bombardment, hopefully not watching their front parapet, where 20 German raiders are closing the distance. 40 meters now. I can see the British wire more clearly. The gap our scouts marked with white tape barely visible, threading through the obstacles that would tear us apart if we hit them wrong. Everything is timing now, speed and silence and luck, hoping no British sentry happens to look this direction, happens to see movement, happens to raise an alarm that would turn this into a disaster. Klaus is in that trench, I think, as we move. Klaus is there, 20 meters away now, probably helping with whatever response they're mounting to the artillery, probably organizing ammunition or positioning men, being useful like he always was.
Good in a crisis, calm under pressure. Does he ever think about me? Does he wonder if I'm fighting? Does he imagine we might be opposite each other someday? 15 meters and we're at the British wire. Single file through the gap. Delicate work. One wrong move and the wire tears uniform and flesh, makes noise, alerts sentries. Muller goes first, experienced, smooth, disappears into the gap. Bauer follows, then Fisher, then me, and I'm sliding through wire that's inches from my face, trying to control my breathing, trying to stay silent, knowing that any second someone might see us, start shooting, turn this into chaos. I'm through the wire, and there's the British trench 5 meters ahead. Sandbag parapet. Nobody visible on the fire step. They're probably all below dealing with the artillery threat. Exactly as planned. Muller signals, points to entry locations. We split into 3 groups, 7 men each, roughly, approaching different sections of trench to maximize surprise and confusion. My group reaches the parapet, and Muller hand signals. I go first. Others follow. Drop into trench fast and quiet. Secure immediate area. Grab any British soldiers we find. Standard procedure. I've done this before, but never knowing my brother might be one of those soldiers I'm supposed to grab or shoot. I take a deep breath, check my rifle one last time, and prepare to drop into my brother's trench.
I drop into the British trench, and time slows down in that strange way combat has. Everything happening fast, but feeling detailed and clear, hyper-aware. The trench is empty right where I land, communication trench intersection, 3 directions. I signal left and right, covering both approaches while Fisher and Schmidt drop in behind me, then the others. No alarm yet. The artillery is still firing, masking our entry noise. We've achieved complete surprise. Miller's group is moving right toward the forward positions. We go left toward what looks like a dugout entrance, and immediately is noise ahead. British voices shouting about the artillery, someone saying to stay calm, someone else asking about casualties. I recognize military organization sounds, the same chaos we have when being shelled, everyone trying to do their jobs while scared. We move fast around the corner and there's a group of 5 British soldiers, backs to us, focused on something ahead. Officers probably, organizing response. Hands up, Muller shouts in English, rifles aimed, and they spin around, complete shock on their faces, hands going up automatically because they're outnumbered and surprised and have no chance. But Klaus isn't among them. These are younger men, privates, scared kids, same as I was scared kids. And I feel relief mixed with tension, because we're not done yet. There's still more trench to clear, still more soldiers to encounter, still a possibility I'll see him. We secure these 5 quickly, hands behind backs, light rope binding, standard prisoner procedure. No talking. Move them quickly back toward the exit point where Bauer's group is already pushing 3 other British prisoners. That's 8 prisoners. Good result. But Miller signals to keep moving, clearing more trench. The artillery will stop in 4 minutes, and then we need to be gone before the British counterattack. We push deeper into their position, and I'm dreading every corner, every dugout entrance, every doorway that might reveal Klaus, might force me to choose in that instant between family and duty, between shooting him or letting him shoot me, or somehow trying to protect him while not betraying my comrades. Another corner and there's a larger dugout, light coming from inside, voices, definitely soldiers, multiple people. This is exactly what we're looking for. Concentrated targets, easy prisoners if we do this right. Miller counts down silently, 3 fingers, 2, 1, and we burst in fast with rifles raised, shouting, hands up, don't move, hands up now. 6 British soldiers inside, caught completely off guard, some sitting, some standing, one at a table with maps. They freeze instantly, hands going up, eyes wide with shock and fear. And there, in the back, standing near the far wall, hands raising slowly, face registering recognition the same instant I do, is Klaus.
My brother, wearing British uniform, British rank insignia of corporal on his sleeve, British rifle leaning against the wall next to him, staring at me with the same shocked recognition I must be showing. Friedrich, he says. My name, question and statement together. Disbelief evident. And every German soldier in that dugout turns to look at me. Because why does this British corporal know my name? How does he recognize me? What connection do we have that makes him speak familiarly instead of enemy to enemy? Time stops completely in that moment. Everyone waiting to see what happens next. Weapons trained, prisoners frozen, brothers staring at each other across 3 meters in 5 years, in impossible circumstances. I should say nothing, should pretend I don't know him, should treat him exactly like the other prisoners. But I can't. Words won't come. Can't even move, can't even think beyond Klaus is here. Klaus is alive. Klaus sees me. Klaus knows what I'm doing. You know him? Miller asked sharply, suspicious. And I have seconds to answer, seconds to decide if I admit the connection or deny it. Seconds to choose between honesty that might cause problems or lies that might protect us both, but destroy what's left of family bonds. Klaus is still staring, waiting to see what I'll say. His expression saying everything. Saying he understands the impossible position I'm in. Saying he won't make it worse. Saying he's sorry too. He's my brother, I finally say. Words coming out flat. Stating fact. No emotion because I can't afford emotion right now. He emigrated to England before the war. I haven't seen him in 5 years. I had no idea he was here. The truth, simple and complete, leaving nothing else to say.
Mueller stares at me for 3 long seconds, processing what I've just said, the impossibility of it, the coincidence of raiding the one section of British trench where my emigrant brother happens to be stationed. Your brother? He finally says, confirming he heard right, that I actually just admitted familial connection to an enemy soldier we're in the process of capturing. Yes, Sergeant, my voice still flat, controlled, showing no particular emotion, because any emotion would be suspicious, would suggest I might compromise the mission, might choose family over duty. The other German soldiers are confused, looking between me and Klaus, trying to understand the situation, how 2 brothers ended up on opposite sides of this war, opposite sides of this trench, opposite sides of this exact raid. Klaus still has his hands up, but his face shows recognition settling into something more complex. Maybe relief that I'm alive, maybe concern about what happens now, maybe calculation about whether this changes anything about his status as prisoner. Small world, Mueller says dryly, then turns businesslike. Doesn't change anything. He's still a prisoner. We're still taking him back. Personal connection is irrelevant to military necessity. He's right, of course. Tactically, this changes nothing. Klaus is enemy combatant, wearing enemy uniform. The fact that we share parents and childhood doesn't alter his value as intelligence source or the requirements of our mission. Understood, Sergeant, I confirm, making clear I'm not planning to interfere, not planning to help Klaus beyond treating him fairly as prisoner. But inside I'm churning, seeing Klaus in British uniform, seeing him as an enemy, trying to reconcile this image with memories of growing up together, learning to hunt together, arguing about girls and politics and father's strictness. Friedrich, Klaus says again, speaking German now, his accent still perfect despite 5 years in England. I didn't expect to see you like this. I thought you'd be safe somewhere, behind the lines, supply duty maybe. There's something in his voice, not quite apology, but acknowledgement that the situation is absurd, that fate or coincidence has created this impossible reunion. Move the prisoners, Mueller orders, cutting off potential conversation, and we start securing the British soldiers with rope, hands behind backs, standard procedure, quick and efficient, because the artillery barrage just stopped, which means we have maybe 2 minutes before the British mount response, realize we raided their trench, start counterattacking, or at least firing on our withdrawal route. We need to be out and running before that happens. Klaus doesn't resist when Fisher ties his hands, doesn't argue or struggle or try anything clever, just stands passive and cooperative, making this easier for everyone. His eyes stay on me, though, watching, and I can read questions there. Questions about how I ended up here, what I've experienced in these months of war, whether I'm okay, whether I've changed, whether the war has made me into something he wouldn't recognize. We hustled the prisoners out of the dugout and back through the trench toward the exit point, moving fast now, because speed is survival. Delay means death. The British are starting to realize something's wrong. I can hear officers shouting, organization forming. They'll figure out we raided them any second. We have maybe 90 seconds. At the exit point, Bauer's group has 11 prisoners total. Combined with our 6, that's 17. Excellent result. Better than expected. Mueller is pleased in his grim tactical way. Move now, fast through the wire. Don't stop until we're in our trench, he orders, and we start pushing prisoners up over the parapet, through the wire gap, out into no man's land where we're completely exposed. Klaus climbs out ahead of me, awkward with bound hands, and I want to help him, but that would be suspicious, would show favoritism, would create questions. So I just follow, rifle ready, watching our flanks, watching for British response, ignoring the fact that my brother is 3 meters ahead, stumbling through darkness toward captivity in German lines. The British finally figure it out, shouts behind us, rifle fire starting, bullets cracking overhead, but we're already 20 meters into no man's land, moving fast, prisoners stumbling and falling, but getting pulled back up, dragged if necessary, because we're not leaving anyone behind, not prisoners and not comrades. The fire intensifies, machine gun joins in, but they're shooting blind, it's dark and we're moving, hard targets. We reach our wire and start pushing prisoners through, one by one, careful even in crisis, because the wire doesn't care about urgency. Careless means caught, means dead. Klaus goes through, I follow, and then we're tumbling into our trench, all of us, 17 British prisoners and 20 German raiders. Mission accomplished, successful raid, casualty 0, and my brother is now a prisoner of war in German custody.
The prisoners are immediately separated and taken to different dugouts for initial processing. Standard procedure to prevent communication and coordination. Keep them isolated until intelligence officers can interrogate individually. Klaus is pulled one direction with 3 other British soldiers. I don't get to speak to him, don't get to explain or apologize, or even acknowledge what just happened beyond that moment in the enemy dugout. Mueller debriefs us quickly, confirming everyone's all right, no casualties, excellent result. We'll all get commendations, probably. This is exactly the kind of operation that looks good in reports. Clean success with valuable intelligence captured. Weber, he says as we're dismissed. The British corporal, your brother? That's an unusual situation, but I need you to not interact with him. Don't visit, don't try to talk to him. Maintain operational security, understood? Yes, Sergeant, understood. But of course I'm thinking about nothing else as I return to my section of trench, as I clean my rifle, as I try to sleep. All I can think about is Klaus, 3 dugouts away, probably being questioned by intelligence officers, probably giving name and rank and serial number and nothing else, probably wondering what happens now, whether being my brother helps or hurts his situation, whether I'll try to contact him. I can't sleep, lying on the fire step wrapped in my blanket, staring up at stars through the trench opening, thinking about the impossibility of what just happened. The infinitesimal odds of raiding that specific trench at that specific time, encountering Klaus among hundreds of thousands of British soldiers on the Western Front. Some would call it fate or destiny or God's will. But it feels more like cosmic irony. The universe's cruel joke, putting brothers opposite each other just to demonstrate war's fundamental absurdity. Morning comes and I ask around carefully about prisoner processing. Learn that they've already been moved to regiment holding area, will be transferred to permanent POW camp within days, probably somewhere in Germany, probably won't see combat again for duration of war. It's strange comfort knowing Klaus is safer as prisoner than he was as British soldier, that he'll spend the war behind wire instead of in trenches, probably survive, probably go home to Margaret and his child eventually. But there's also guilt, knowing I participated in his capture, that my unit raided his trench, that I personally secured his dugout, that I'm partially responsible for his next months or years as prisoner. Not directly responsible, didn't personally tie his hands or force him over the parapet, but involved, complicit, part of the machine that took his freedom. Private Schmidt finds me during morning stand to, still enthusiastic about the raid, his first successful operation, talking excitedly about how smooth it went, how professional everyone was, how he didn't even fire his rifle but got to participate in real combat mission. "And that British corporal who knew your name," he says curiously. "That was crazy. What are the odds, running into your brother like that?" "Very small odds," I answer shortly, not wanting to discuss it, not wanting to think about it more than I already am. Days pass and I hear Klaus has been transferred, sent to POW camp somewhere in Bavaria, ironically, near where we grew up, near where our parents still live. I wonder if he'll contact them somehow, if they'll be allowed to visit, if father's anger about emigration will soften now that Klaus is imprisoned in Germany, if mother will cry with relief that both her sons survived the raid at least. I write to mother carefully, telling her Klaus is alive, is a prisoner, is likely safe for the duration, giving her what comfort I can without providing details that might be censored or cause problems. I don't tell her I was part of his capture, don't tell her I heard his voice before the raid, don't tell her about that moment of recognition in the British dugout. Just say he was taken prisoner during operations near my position, letting her assume coincidence without understanding how complete that coincidence was. The war continues. Winter comes. The fighting becomes brutal, static siege warfare. And I try to focus on survival, on keeping my men alive, on getting through each day. But I keep thinking about Klaus in that camp, about whether he's warm enough, fed enough, treated decently, whether he hates me for participating in his capture, or understands I had no choice. The war drags on for 4 more years. Years I spend in trenches across Belgium and France. Years of fighting that becomes routine horror. Years of seeing friends die and replacements arrive and die too. Years of wondering if Klaus is still alive in that camp, still surviving, still sane. The letters from mother occasionally mention him, say he's written to them, say he's managing, say he misses Margaret and wants to meet his daughter, who was born in July 1915 while he was in British Army, before his capture, before everything changed. I survived the Somme, survived Verdun, survived countless smaller battles that still kill people just as dead, survived poison gas and artillery barrages and raids and snipers and disease and exhaustion and despair. I'm promoted to corporal, then sergeant. Responsibility I don't want but accept because someone has to do it. Someone has to lead the survivors. Someone has to make decisions that keep people alive, even though people die anyway. In November 1918, the armistice comes. Suddenly, shockingly. The war just stops. Germany agrees to terms. Fighting ends. Everyone stands in trenches, looking confused, not quite believing it's over, not quite trusting that the killing has finally stopped. We're ordered back to Germany, long march home, defeated army returning to country that's collapsing into revolution, Kaiser abdicating, government forming, chaos everywhere. I return to Munich in December, find our family apartment.
Mother cries when she sees me. Father shakes my hand formally. Both of them aged terribly by 4 years of worry and grief and privation. Food shortages, economic collapse, all the civilian suffering that accompanied military disaster. Klaus is being released, Mother tells me. Prisoners are being repatriated. He should be home soon. Back to England, probably. Back to his family. Have you seen him? I ask. And she nods. Says they visited the camp twice after finding out he was there. Say he looked tired and thin but healthy. Say he asked about me constantly. Wanted to know if I survived, if I made it through the war. Worried because I was in combat while he was safely imprisoned. The irony isn't lost on either of us, that my participation in his capture probably saved his life, kept him out of the trenches that killed so many. 3 weeks later, Klaus appears at our apartment, released from the camp, wearing civilian clothes they issued him, carrying small bag with his possessions, looking thin but well, better than I probably look after 4 years in trenches. We stare at each other for a long moment, me standing in the doorway, him on the step, neither quite knowing what to say, how to begin, whether we're still brothers or whether the war destroyed that along with everything else. Friedrich, he finally says, and steps forward, and we embrace, awkward but genuine, holding each other like we did when we were children, before the world taught us that brothers could become enemies, that borders and uniforms could divide blood. Mother cries watching us. Father stands stiff but approving. Family reunited against impossible odds, against war's best efforts to destroy everything. We talk for hours that night, carefully at first, then more openly, about the war, about what we experienced, about how strange it was to encounter each other that night, about whether he hates me for being part of his capture. He admits, I was relieved when I saw it was you in that dugout, when I realized German soldiers taking me prisoner included my brother, because I knew you wouldn't mistreat me, knew I'd be okay, knew someone who cared about me was at least partially responsible for what happened next. I tell him about hearing his voice before the raid, about recognizing him instantly, about the impossible choice of whether to warn him or go through with the mission, about deciding I had no choice. Duty was duty, even when duty meant capturing family. You did the right thing, he says. You couldn't betray your comrades, couldn't sabotage the operation. You had your duty and I had mine. We just happened to be on opposite sides. Will you go back to England? I ask, and he nods. Says Margaret has been waiting 4 years. His daughter Anna is 3 years old and doesn't know him. He needs to rebuild his life there. England is his home now, even though Germany is his homeland. Will we stay in contact this time? He smiles, says yes. Says the war taught him that family matters more than borders, that he regrets letting father's anger break communication before, that he wants his daughter to know her uncle, even if her uncle fought for the country that imprisoned her father.
Klaus returns to England in January 1919, and letters start arriving regularly again after 10-year gap. Letters about his life in Manchester, about Margaret and Anna, about trying to rebuild after war, about struggling with memories and nightmares, same as me, about learning to be civilian again after being soldier. I write back about my life in Munich, about trying to find work in destroyed economy, about dealing with Germany's collapse and humiliation, about the strange hollowness of peace after years of war defining everything. The 1920s pass slowly. Germany struggles. England struggles. Everyone struggles with aftermath of war that killed millions and solved nothing, that destroyed a generation and created problems we're still dealing with. I marry in 1923, have a son in 1924, tried to build normal life,
try to forget trenches and mud and death and impossible choices. Klaus visits once in 1925, brings Margaret and Anna. Awkward reunion, but meaningful. Our children play together. Our wives become friends. Family transcends what war tried to destroy. But in 1930s, things start changing. Germany gets dangerous. Politics becomes violent. Nazis rise, promising restoration of greatness, promising revenge for 1918 humiliation, promising solutions through aggression and racism and nationalism. I watch with horror as country I fought for becomes country I don't recognize, as people I knew become people I don't trust, as the next war becomes inevitable. Klaus writes worried letters, says England is watching Germany nervously, says everyone fears it's starting again, asks if I'm safe, if my family is safe, if I'll have to fight again. I don't know how to answer, because I don't know. Can only watch as country slides toward disaster, toward another war that will divide us again, toward a repetition of nightmare we barely survived first time. In 1939, it happens. Germany invades Poland. Britain declares war. And once again, we're enemies, brothers on opposite sides, except this time we're older. We have families. We have children who might have to fight each other. And the horror is worse because we know what's coming, know what war means, know the cost in ways we didn't in 1914. But this time we're not soldiers, too old for combat service, assigned to home defense and logistics, supporting war effort without directly fighting, strange relief mixed with guilt that younger men will do the dying while we survive. The letters stop again. Wartime communication impossible between enemies. Another silence that lasts 6 years. When this war finally ends in 1945, Germany is destroyed completely, occupied, divided, Berlin in ruins, everything we knew demolished. I survive bombing, survive occupation, survive aftermath, barely. Klaus survives too, I eventually learn. Lived through the Blitz, lived through V weapon attacks, lived through 6 more years of wondering if his brother survived. We reconnect in 1947, letters again, sharing survival stories, comparing scars, physical and mental, acknowledging we're both old now, both tired, both done with war forever, even though war isn't done with world. I heard your voice before the battle began, I write to him. That night in 1914, I recognized you across no man's land, and I've spent 33 years thinking about that moment, about what it meant, about whether I made the right choice. You made the only choice you could, and we both survived. That's what matters. Everything else is just history.
I'm 96 years old now. Klaus died in 1975 at age 92. Margaret followed in 1978. My wife in 1980. Most people I knew are gone. Most connections to that world severed by time and death and distance. But I remember that night in November 1914 like it was yesterday. Remember hearing Klaus's voice across no man's land. Remember the recognition. Remember the raid. Remember seeing him in that British dugout with his hands up. Remember the impossible coincidence that put brothers face to face across war's divide. People ask me about the Great War now. Historians and students and curious relatives. Everyone wanting to understand what it was like, why it happened, how we survived it, what we learned.
I tell them about the trenches, and the mud, and the fear, and the boredom, and the death. All the standard stories veterans tell. But I also tell them about Klaus, about the brother I captured, about the voice I recognized before battle began, about the choice I faced between duty and family. What would you do differently? They ask. And I tell them honestly, nothing. I would do exactly the same, because I had no choice, no real option. Couldn't betray my comrades, couldn't sabotage the raid, couldn't put family above duty in that moment. Could only do my... I'm 96 years old now. Klaus died in 1975 at age 92. Margaret followed in 1978. My wife in 1980. Most people I knew are gone. Most connections to that world severed by time and death and distance. But I remember that night in November 1914 like it was yesterday. Remember hearing Klaus's voice across no man's land. Remember the recognition. Remember the raid. Remember seeing him in that British dugout with his hands up. Remember the impossible coincidence that put brothers face to face across war's divide. People ask me about the Great War now. Historians and students and curious relatives, everyone wanting to understand what it was like, why it happened, how we survived it, what we learned. I tell them about the trenches and the mud and the fear and the boredom and the death, all the standard stories veterans tell. But I also tell them about Klaus, about the brother I captured, about the voice I recognized before battle began, about the choice I faced between duty and family. What would you do differently? They ask. And I tell them, honestly, nothing. I would do exactly the same because I had no choice, no real option. Couldn't betray my comrades, couldn't sabotage the raid, couldn't put family above duty in that moment. Could only do my job and hope Klaus survived, hope the universe was kind enough to let us both make it through. But I also tell them the larger truth, that the whole situation was absurd, that brothers shouldn't have to fight brothers, that working-class Germans and working-class Englishmen had no real quarrel, that we were all pawns in games played by kings and generals and politicians, that Klaus emigrating to England didn't make him my enemy any more than my staying in Germany made him his enemy, that the real enemies were systems that demanded we kill each other over borders and flags and abstract concepts of national honor. Klaus and I had 31 more years after 1918. Years we wouldn't have had if that raid had gone differently, if I had been assigned to different unit, if timing had been slightly different, if the universe hadn't arranged for brothers to collide in the darkness of Belgian November. We rebuilt our relationship, maintained it through another war, watched our children and grandchildren grow up knowing each other, proved that family bonds survive what nations try to destroy. I heard my brother's voice before battle began, I tell them when they ask for most important memory. And I chose duty over warning him, chose mission over family, chose being good soldier over being good brother. And it haunts me still. Not because it was a wrong choice, but because I had to make it at all. Because war put me in a position where no choice was good, where every option was betrayal of something important. Klaus understood, forgave me if forgiveness was needed, never blamed me for his capture or imprisonment or years away from family, recognized that we were both caught in a machinery larger than ourselves, both doing what we thought right, both surviving as best we could. That's all soldiers ever do. Survive, do their duty, hope for peace, hope for home, hope the choices they make in impossible moments don't destroy them. I recognized the voice before battle began, and that recognition changed everything and nothing, led to reunion and imprisonment and survival and decades of family restored. We were lucky, Klaus and I. Lucky that coincidence put us together. Lucky that we both survived. Lucky that we got a second chance after war tried to kill us both. Most brothers divided by war never got that chance, never reconnected, died in trenches, or from wounds, or from heartbreak. Casualties of conflict that made enemies of family. So when they ask what I learned from war, from that night, from hearing Klaus's voice across no man's land, I tell them, family matters more than flags. Blood is thicker than borders. And if you're lucky enough to survive impossible circumstances and reunite with the people you love, hold on to them. Because war takes enough without also taking the bonds that make us human. Klaus was my brother before the war, during the war, after the war. And no amount of uniforms or trenches or national allegiance could change that fundamental truth. That's what I learned from recognizing his voice before battle began. That's what I carried through 2 wars and 96 years. That's what I'm telling you now, so maybe future generations won't have to make the same impossible choices we did.